We looked at functions in a couple lessons back, and now we're going to look at the sums or products of functions. So remember, a function was just something like h of x equals blank, and then it gave you whatever the x would be. So in this one, in example 1, it gives h of x equals x plus 3. Its domain, we'll get to that in a second, is real numbers. And then I'm just going to call this theta. It's not technically a theta sign, but I'm just going to call it theta. Theta of x equals x squared minus 6, and the domain is integers. So what we are going to do, and then it says find h plus theta if x is 2. There's two different ways you can do this. You can do x plus 3 plus x squared minus 6, okay, equals your answer, and then you can plug in 2 for everything. You can plug in 2 there. You can plug in 2 there. Or you could just plug in 2 from the start. You could say, you could know that h, when you plugged in 2, h of x would equal 5, because 3 plus 2 is 5. And then the theta of x, when we plug that in, 2 squared would be 4 minus 6. That would equal negative 2. And then when we get to the adding the two answers together is basically what we're doing. Okay, we're just substituting in 5 plus negative 2, or 5 minus 2. And we come to our answer. So there's two different ways you can do it. You can just plug in for x at the start and find your answer for h, find your answer for theta, add the two together because it's what it says to do here. Or you can add the two equations together to start, like so here, x plus 3 plus x squared minus 6, and then plug in for x and solve. Either way, you're going to get the same answer. So here, obviously we get 3. Here would be 2 plus 3, that'd be 5. 5 plus 4 is 9 minus 6, also 3. So your answer would be 3. Now let me talk about the domain real quick. If it says domain is real numbers and domain is integers, well, whatever is being plugged in here. So looking at the 2, we can only solve for our equation, our function, if this satisfies both here and here. Well, 2 is a real number and it is an integer, so that would work. So we can solve and find our answer. So you got to pay attention to the domain, because say our domain was 2, or say it was 2.5. Well, that would be a real number, but that would not be an integer. So anyways, that's how you do sum of functions. Create a little space here. Now let's do the product of functions. Product just means multiply. So in example 3 it says find h times g of negative 4 if h of x is x plus 3 and g of x is x squared minus 6. Once again, you can do it two different ways. You can plug in negative 4 plus 3 to start. This is how I generally personally do it, because I think it's one less step. So I can do negative 4 plus 3 and find that that is negative 1. Okay, find that h of x is negative 1. Then I could plug in the negative 4 here. So that'd be 16 minus 6, and that'd be a positive 10 for g of x. Okay, so we would have those two, and then we would multiply, because we are multiplying our h and g. All right, h is negative 1, g is 10, so we would multiply h and g, 10 times negative 1, and get, that's actually reversed, but whatever, we would get negative 10 as our answer. Once again, we could also say x plus 3 times x squared minus 6. You could multiply all those and get your answer as well. I'm going to use this way because that's way easier for me, and I'm not going to do all those steps. Once again, we got to look at our domain. Okay, this one says real numbers, so anything would work there except for imaginary number. And then this one says negative integers. So looking here, Negative 4 is a negative integer, so it checks off both domain boxes. If it did not, then you would call that an empty, or you could say null, N-U-L-L set. But this works out, so it is not an empty set. It actually works. And anyways, that's how you do the sums and products of functions.